The ruling today that's getting the most attention involves a decision that, for now, allows for emergency abortions in Idaho. And to learn more about what the court decided and the ramifications of the decision, we welcome Jennifer Pyatt of ASU Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Of course.
Talk about the case, if you would. Talk about the decision or the non-decision.
Very much a non-decision today. So we have a case involving a conflict of a federal law, EMTALA, which requires emergency stabilizing medical treatment of emergency conditions. The U.S. government says this can include abortions when the health or the life of a person is in danger. We have Idaho state law that says abortions can only happen when the life of a person is in danger. So that health and that life really came to a head, and the court was really aiming at trying to say whether EMTALA does in fact preempt and get rid of Idaho's law in this instance. They decided not to do that, not to tackle the preemption question.
So it basically reinstates the lower court ruling that stopped Idaho's near total abortion ban?
Yes. So that ruling is back in place, which means that Idaho is going to have to allow physicians in the state to provide emergency health-preserving abortions as well as emergency life-preserving ones.
Because federal law at this point still holds sway.
Because that's what the lower court determined, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, we don't want to decide that issue yet.
I was going to say, the case is dismissed without a ruling, no merits involved here at all. Well, what's going on here?
You know, it's anybody's guess. There are a number of opinions attached to this really brief order from the U.S. Supreme Court that kind of give us a sense of where the justices are coming out on this issue. But it looks like a majority of them said, it's maybe a little too early for us to get involved here, actually. So we're going to step out.
Why would it be too early, do you think?
So some of the arguments in those attached decisions, like, for example, Justice Barrett, the Chief Justice, and Justice Kavanaugh all said, it seems like the arguments in this case are still actually developing, and they were kind of changing during oral argument. And so maybe we need these arguments to solidify at the lower court level before we get involved.
So basically, let's keep it as simple as you can, please.
Yeah.
The case itself, what happens?
So it goes back now. It goes back. It was in very early stages of the case in the lower court. It goes back and it keeps getting litigated, and then it goes through appeals to the Ninth Circuit, and then maybe comes back to the U.S. Supreme Court after all of that.
And it could be decided on its merits somewhere along the line yeah?
Absolutely. It could come right back to the U.S. Supreme Court after all of this is done, and then they could decide the EMTALA question. But they have another case sitting in front of them from Texas that decided this issue as well. The Fifth Circuit decided this issue as well, and they might accept cert on that any day now.
How does that differ from this one?
So it's the same case, it's the same argument, except the Fifth Circuit said EMTALA does not preempt Texas law. Texas law is valid here, and EMTALA doesn't get in the way of it.
So if they decide to take the Texas over the Idaho, or the Idaho over the Texas, is that a signal?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe the Texas case has already been sitting there on their docket for a while now. So if they take that one, you know, who knows? What
happened with the Supreme Court and the Idaho case? What does that mean as far as Arizona is concerned?
So actually, it doesn't really mean a whole lot at this stage, because the Supreme Court decided not to do anything.
Right.
So they could have, in this case, said, you know, EMTALA preempts all state laws that don't provide for health-saving exceptions as broadly as EMTALA does. And there could be an argument that maybe Arizona's 15-week ban does not do that, because it has very specific circumstances for when exceptions are allowed. But because the court didn't go that far, we really don't have that answer yet.
Well, we did get kind of a partial answer on all this from Attorney General Kris Mayes as far as what she plans to do and how she sees the abortion law and what it really means. We just had her on a couple of nights ago, and she said that there's still a lot of confusion among doctors out there. What did she say today? So
there's about a 15 or 16-page AG advisory opinion that goes into detail, and the main point that I want to stress that AG Mayes is calling out is this is about a clinician's good faith clinical judgment. And as long as they're acting in good faith, as long as they're acting, you know, honestly and not with malice or not with, you know, malintent, then that's going to be lawful and that's going to be valid. And it's not about what a reasonable physician might do. It's about what this physician did reasonably under those circumstances.
Why do you think she had to make that advisory?
I think that there has been a lot of confusion over medical exceptions to abortion bans, not just in Arizona, but all over the place. And I think clinicians are nervous. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They want to treat their patients. They also don't want to lose their license or face prosecution. So getting some clarity on that, I think, was pretty necessary.
Getting some clarity on when the court's going to decide on Trump's immunity and the J6 protesters, whether they can be, prosecuted for obstructing an official proceeding. I mean, they're really tomorrow, Monday. What are you thinking?
It could be tomorrow, and they could slide that into the weekend news cycle, and be very comfortable with that. But it could absolutely be Monday. We just don't know. Normally, they don't even go into July, so
Yes.
It's a surprise to see opinions coming out on Monday at all.
Were you surprised to see that Bloomberg News had this particular abortion ruling? What was that all about?
I was shocked, and I thought now every news agency is going to refresh these pages a million times to find whatever happens from this court.
And this court seems to have a problem keeping some of their decisions under wraps.
Yes, they do. This has happened twice now in recent years, which is pretty surprising.
Do you have any ideas as far as Trump's immunity? Are there any smoke signals coming in any direction?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, maybe we'll find out tomorrow. Maybe it'll be Monday.
Could it be partial immunity?
I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know what direction they're going to go with it. I can't say.
Yeah, that's what makes it fascinating. That's why we have you on the program, because we need this kind of insight. Jennifer Pye at ASU O'Connor College of Law. It's always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.